Shad Moss is out here preaching to the community.
Okay.
The rap community, Jay Moore, from the pulpit. Or maybe he might have been outside in the vestibule. I don't know. If you've been to church, you know what a vestibule is.
That was probably usher in the church.
Keep going.
I'm sorry.
Why he got to be an usher?
We're in the choir. He's in the choir.
Director?
Ushers got to make sure people get to their seats properly and make sure people don't come in.
It's a worthy job to have.
Yeah.
It's respectable.
Especially with what we're about to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Long. Yeah. That's a good positive spin on that, my brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the change that Benny isn't.
Bar of the night. So Bow Wow says hip-hop needs a board, no different than the NBA, with the Players Association, a committee that can set rules and keep things in control and protect this thing we call hip-hop, and have a retirement plan for the OG rappers. I hate seeing my heroes liquored out, no money, just wash.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So the difference between hip-hop and the NBA is there's no company called hip-hop that is writing everybody that has a record deal a check. The NBA is a whole company, $1 billion company that signs checks to all its players. So it's easy to create a union behind that because it's all coming from the same place. Same with every other job that has a union. So it's a good idea in theory, but how do you make that happen from people that are either a solo or don't have any kind of contract with anybody? The ones that are on the record labels, the ones that are managed by people that might be under a whole nother umbrella. That in itself sounds like a mess that will never cultivate into something that everybody would agree upon. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well,
what you think, Lon?
I would say that I would agree with what you're saying if in the way that everything is set up now, because everything is set up now very top down from different companies and they're working directly with talent. But the change could come potentially if there is some sort of hip-hop entity like a players union of sorts, right, to where the players go through them first and then they go out to wherever they go to. Now, will that ever happen, or is it super complicated? Yeah, of course, because right now the way everything is set up, it doesn't make any sense because it's labels picking artists out and doing whatever they do. But let's say there was a hip-hop entity and Jay-Z was on it and, all of Cash Money was on it and Drake was on it and all this other stuff. And every artist that was potentially going to sign a deal, this particular union, as we would call it, I guess, dealt directly with the record label companies. Then maybe if the artist, before they went and did that, maybe they went to hip hop, right? And then they were somehow under that umbrella. I don't know. I feel like it's not like completely like, oh, this could never happen. I just don't feel like we are structured in a way and we are conditioned in a way to even think that something like that could ever happen here.
Because, like, is there even, outside of hip hop, is there a union with just artists in general on these record labels?
No.
Not even just saying hip hop. Like
to my knowledge, no.
It's not even like with say actors. There's a Screen Actors Guild,
right?
Yep.
Okay,
that's pretty much just having a card, essentially.
But you basically have to pay into that union. I remember hearing a story about, of all people, Dick Gregory. He wound up being in some Rob Schneider movie. That Rob Schneider had seen him on something and said, "Hey, I'd love to have Dick Gregory in the movie. We could give him a small role."
Right.
And because of that, Dick Gregory had health insurance for the first time in years, because he was active in the union. Even though he didn't get paid a lot for the particular role, he was able to get insurance. Maybe if there's something like that, like if you start making records and say you finally register your music with ASCAP or BMI or whatever, there's also a step to where a certain, say even it's just a 0.5% of your generated income goes to paying your way into the Hip Hop Association dues retirement fund. I completely made up that organization just on the fly. And then, that money goes into, insurance, paying into some sort of end of life benefit, just so we don't have to have GoFundMe's pay for rappers' funerals.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be something like that, but everyone would have to opt in.
Exactly.
And there are people who are going to be like, no, I'm taking care of my own business. I'm doing.
Or I need a new chain. I'm not paying.
You know,
any of that.
There we go.
Or unless
There would have to be other benefits outside
Yeah.
of just like paying for stuff, right? It would have to
because
be like,
the thing with the Screen Actors Guild, which is solid, is like, for example, during COVID, nobody was acting, so they were able to still live because of the Screen Actors Guild, essentially. If they need to go to the doctor or whatnot and get a small stipend or whatever.
Good point.
But with music, they can continue to make music through whatever, essentially, right?
Yeah.
but also think about like the music industry is crazy, and it's like it's cutthroat, and so like there would have to be a very, very major change in culture for anything like this to even be breathed upon, because it's like it's not just the labels, but it's also like
The artists.
it's also the distribution platforms,
The publishing platforms.
It's like there's so many moving parts, and it's already super complicated anyways.
The streaming platform.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's super, super complicated, but it doesn't mean that it can't be tackled. It would just, if everybody did get on board, if it became as standard as 10 years ago, not everybody was putting their music on iTunes and Apple right away. I mean, most people were, right? But now everybody is into streaming because that's the way it is. But if every artist knew, just like you have to go through a DistroKid or you have to go through whatever, that, okay, another one of my steps after that isn't just Sound Exchange and Song Trust and ASCAP, but I need to register on here and become a part of this, then maybe it becomes something like a players association or something like that, to where you can bargain with like, hey, we don't like getting 0.000007 cents every stream. We want 0.0005, like maybe that conversation can be had the best of everybody a part of a specific thing. I don't think it's like super, super crazy out there, but it would take a lot.
It's, to me, I think what scares even the hip hop veterans or the OGs, because people like Chuck D have talked about this. LL Cool J talks about this all the time.
Jay-Z talks about it.
Jay-Z talks about it, but Lone, you said something earlier. You were talking about an idea always sounds good, right? I think what you just described in terms of how difficult this is, the possibility of this could be, I think that's one of the main things that scares people, or scares Hove and Chuck when they all get together, is the fact that how much it's going to take and how many moving parts are going to be involved to get this to happen.
And who's going to be over it? Who's
going to be over it?
Someone will be like, I don't want Jay-Z watching the money. I don't want Chuck D watching the money. I don't want so-and-so watching the money. And there's always going to be a level of infighting that, comes from, but that happens with any union.
Any union, business structure, all
There's
that.
going to be people that don't want to opt into that union,
Yeah.
because imagine Drake is making all this money, and then you got this other artist that's not making nowhere near the amount as Drake is, and he doesn't want to pay in to the union
For sure.
like that, because he's not making the same amount of money.
That's
And essentially the union is going to help him more than it's going to help Drake. But at the end of the day,
that's how it works. Like the union helped out those small with those smaller actors. Denzel has been getting $20 million a movie for the last 20 years. He, that hit, COVID didn't hit him the same way it hit like a day player or somebody who's, just shows up and, is a character actor. And that we see them all the time, but we may not even know their name.
Terry made a good point as it relates to Drake, because, do you love is this something that you love so much that you want to sow into to help other people out? Are there a lot of top tier artists that really want to take that and sow into it so it can be dispersed to the people that need it? Or are they just like, man?
Well, it's not just like, I think the framing, the idea isn't just like, it's not just like signing up so you can create a pot of money. It's creating equity. It's adjusting the power structure of what everything is, right? So you have to buy into the idea of, one, that you're going to be, this is one of, what's the saying, change happens when old men who plant trees that they'll never see, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have to be a long-term type of thing for the change that you want to see for the genre that you're a part of, or the culture that you're a part of in the long term. So it's gonna take something like that, and maybe Drake doesn't join. That's okay, but maybe these other 500 people do. There's always going to be people that aren't a part of what it is. But I think having the option to create that in particular manner, I think would be, I don't know. I think it's something that's kind of cool in general, if you can if you have the people that are willing to take it on, you know,
That part.
Ideally,
that's
it
gonna
is
be the hard-
silent, but it's just a lot of moving parts.
But it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing. I mentioned this again on the show that I was on, but it's like our
so we see you.
But our corporations in the country, they reflect what our society is. And if our society is extremely capitalist in nature, which it is, then all of the business entities are going to reflect that as well. And all the issues that we have in society, which are, if we look at societal problems, or let's say racism within organizations, or other stuff,
that too, yeah.
other stuff, right? Anything that happens within our society also happens within organizations. So it's like, it's reflective of that. And us being a very hyper-capitalist society, that kind of fringes at the idea of a socialist idea of a union. It's hard to overcome just in other businesses that aren't as like hip hop's like so interesting because it's not like one business entity that owns it. It's not like a Starbucks. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So the fact that like there's still legislation, there's still pushback against like labor unions now, and there's agitprop against it and all this other stuff. Like in regular stuff, like it's going to be that much harder going up against probably one of the biggest corporations in the world, which is the corporation of the music industry.
The entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Well,
and
the thing is, you're always going to, there's always going to be bumps and bruises along the way. If something, I don't know if you guys remember in like Tecmo's Super Bowl, where like if you played as the Bills, you didn't play as Jim Kelly, you played as QB Bills.
Yeah.
You didn't play as Randall Cunningham. You played as QB Eagles. It was because at one point, there were certain players who separated themselves from the NFLPA, and they were like, we want to do our own licensing deals. That's where you wind up getting the NFL quarterback club. Because those particular quarterbacks, they was like, we don't want to be we don't want to be lumped in with every other player. We feel like we have enough power to cut our own deals.
Right.
Now basically with the licensing, like you don't see that anymore. Like everybody gets
Charles
enough
Barkley,
money.
Reggie Miller.
Just
Jordan was like that early.
Just like in the initial NBA Live games, you didn't have Jordan. You didn't
Player
have
23.
You didn't have Barkley. Eventually, Shaq signed a deal, and he was, he wound up being back in the game. So there was a short time where there's just like when you play the old NBA Jam, big as that game was, Michael Jordan wasn't in it because he had his own deal. They would have had to pay him his own fee to be in the game.
For the record,
so like he didn't want the union deal, and so there's going to be rappers like that
for sure.
Well, they better get like T Grizzly and drive a Uber and be a waiter and a registered nurse on the side. Because it's real out here, evidently.
But also, there was a part that Bow Wow said about a board, I don't know if you had to get your certificate of appropriateness from a certain board of rap. I mean, it's like, because I know there are a lot of rappers that be like, I'll be damned if I got to run my lyrics and behavior by Bow Wow before I start doing stuff.
First of all, Bow Wow's not going to be a board member.
It's his idea.
It's his idea. What if he says, I would like to be on the board?
Well,
and since I submitted this, and he gets enough votes to where, look, he might be able to George Santos' thing.
You gotta respect it.
Do I have to respect it?
You gotta respect it. If he's
is that his name? Whatever his name is.
When you say Clarence, what's his name?
George Santos.
Well, he's changed his name multiple times.
Yeah,
is the thing.
Yeah, he also went to school on a volleyball scholarship.
Hey man, here's the board. We get Chuck D. We get Bun B. We get David Banner. We get Killer Mike on there.
Okay,
I like it. Jay-Z would just be a plus because he's a capitalist.
I like it.
So you got that in there a little bit.
Do we want Puff?
I feel like you need Puff or Jay. You could have both, maybe.
I'm gonna take Jay.
Maybe.
Okay, but say what did they say? It was like, Okay, remember it was a few years ago, and they like Lil Wayne had a song with Future, and he said he had a real distasteful bar about Emmett Till.
I remember
as
that
a punchline,
right?
Yep.
And like, would our hip hop board have pulled him to the side and said, we're not going to do that? Or like the time,
would Wayne listen if they pulled him to the side?
Or the time when like Nicki Minaj on some song, she decided she would put Malcolm X on the cover of like not a song that had nothing to do with Malcolm X or even the spirit of what he would like. Do we I feel like those kind of calls?
I feel like that's going too far left. I think this is just
monetarily.
This is just bargaining power. This is literally just bargaining power with the higher entities. I think that's all it is. Because I don't think you can police that. I don't think you can police what goes into it.
Because that would go back to what Benny was talking about, essentially, because he would be essentially have a strike or go on strike.
Yeah.
Essentially in the union based on his lyrics.
Where
we go.
Where it's like, okay, there are 42 crack references.
Yeah, I don't think
we talking about Pusha T?
No, I mean, we just want to say anybody.
Okay.
And let's see, the board has determined you can only have 35 crack references on your album.
I don't think it's
that right there would turn people away.
Yeah, I don't
that
think
wouldn't be it.
I don't
That's
think
too much policing.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just bargaining power. I think it's just bargaining power and leveraging.
The artists don't have any leverage. The artists don't have any The artists don't have any leverage. So to Lone's point, it would be more about that. And another thing,
maybe it's not even a hip hop thing. Maybe it's just a music industry thing too.
Because he said, "I hate seeing my heroes liquored up or out no money or just washed." So without money,
that happens with every profession. I mean, essentially, you got, unfortunately, the armed forces. A lot of them have PTSD when they come back from over there.
That's true.
And the government does not take care of them at all. They're on the side of the road with a sign. Ask for money.
And your favorite basketball player might have spent all his money on child support and and bad restaurant ideas. I mean, like,
he ain't lying though.
Like that's what what happens. Like it's like somebody, like people, like it's easy to get rich, but it's easy to also get back to being poor after you're rich.
I think the overarching conversation that we're actually having here is just how I'm gonna go there again.
Let's go.
But it's like, would Bow Wow, would a lot of these artists that have these issues later on in life, let's say with healthcare and we don't even have like socialized medicine in this country, right? So I feel like a lot of these arguments we're trying to, what Bow Wow is suggesting here is literally a form of socialism or a part of it. And
we know how they feel about that.
For sure, right? And so that's why it would automatically it would be extremely hard to even form. But I mean, like, if we had social, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
social resources
and like things in places to where,
not even for hip hop artists, just for people
just for people, just for people in general. If we had socialized medicine to the point to where, like, if you're sick, you can go to the doctor and then not be in poverty afterwards, that would help all of this, right? If we had different types of things in place along those lines, then this conversation switches a little bit. So to me, it always goes back to, we're a capitalist, super capitalist driven society, and it's going to be hard to change anything if we are still stuck in that realm. So
the next big rap group is going to be called, under the union, the Social Capitalists.
Nice. Nice.
Social capitalists.
Yeah.
We call those democratic socialists. Or actually, there's a word for that. Norwegian.
Oh my
Norwegian.
God, man.
I'm serious though.
Norwegian, yes.
I forget what it's like. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's a word for it. Social democrats is what they call them. Anyways,
an interview I saw with LL one time on Rock the Bells was health benefits, like kind of like what you were just talking about. And I think a lot of this, the majority of it, well, not the majority, but a big portion could be just as simple as OGs being able to take care of themselves and go to the doctor. But
imagine if we had socialized
I get that part. Yeah, I get that part. I get that part.
Back down to America.
I get that part.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, I get that part.
Our country.
So it's just the fact that LL actually mentioned that part, the importance of that for somebody like.
And he's rich.
And he's rich, but he's thinking of the OGs and the elders that preceded him that might have certain issues. I ain't saying all of them are broke, but he just was like, yo, I know people that were out that influenced me, that were older than me, that can't do certain things now because there's nothing in place for them to get aid to do it.
I'm gonna tell you,
and these are legends.
Be in the union.
Yeah, Social Security.
Academics is not going to be in that union.
No, we can't.
Remember, he talked bad about the OGs that didn't have money.
Well, apparently he's only talking about one person, but he won't. But he won't put a name on it.
Bro, I saw him he got dragged by Hassan Piker
again
in a debate. No, it was the same. This is what I'm talking about. He got dragged on him. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
Some people,
like it would be great if there's a 55-year-old rapper, they should just be able to go to the doctor.
Yeah. Just like a 55-year-old retired school teacher should
be able to go to the doctor.
Or
somebody that works at Wendy's. You know what I mean?
But in this, unfortunately, we have people in our society who feel like, look, you didn't work hard enough. You don't deserve to go to the doctor. Like that's kind of where this mentality is. Like where, the whole, I hate to get, not to get political, but that's why in certain places they didn't want to expand, Medicaid coverage, because it was like those people, if they want health care, they'll find a way to get it. And even if we got to close a bunch of hospitals,
we know the history
even
of
if we
of
close a
Medicaid.
bunch of hospitals, we're going to go ahead and we'll make our point that way instead of actually just taking the expansion and make sure people can.
Or
have.
doctor is not treating you based on all of that.
That's
But
tough.
I ain't even gonna get into that subject because that's kind of touchy for me.
But it's just, it really is a thing to where it's a great, like, say somebody would, we start the idea now and it goes in 20 years, it could be a real thing, because
Right.
like, I think that's where a lot of people would get discouraged if all of a sudden, okay, we're going to do this union. You pay 1/2 of 1% of whatever that you make into this pot, and it helps out somebody, at the end of their life. And like, you're not seeing it work for you right now. So you get discouraged and you're like, man, let's not do that. But you don't realize that, like, rich homie Quan's going to be in his 50s, and if you'd have just paid into the union, you'd have been straight in 20 years. We in a world of instant gratification, we don't see something pay off right here and right now. We were like, it didn't work. We don't realize the result.
Too.
Just like you said, the old man planting the tree that he's never going to see.
Yep.
Like the NFL union fight these cases from these old players.
True.
NBA players too.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of those
get messy too,
those
though.
players that were like in the ABA and NBA that are
Because they're
in that situation now to where they're looking for money. These organizations are fighting their cases
Yep.
because the
not
players,
to pay it.
the players union is for current players, not former union. So they're not, as far as they're concerned, those people are outsiders asking for money.
I mean, they supposed to have pensions.
Supposed to.
Essentially, if you're in the union and you worked somewhere for a long enough time, that comes with a pension, and that pension is supposed to take care of you. So if they're not paying out pensions,
Sorry.
then yeah, I mean, it took you quite a.
I had to find the
Long
button,
time,
man. Come on, man.
It's all good.
These ads
anyway,
popping up.
If they're not paying the pensions and they're fighting the pensions in court, I mean,
Well, yeah, that's once again, it's the growing pains of anything like this.
Going
That's-
against the establishment of what we have.
it all comes back down to the root problem.
Yeah, it's capitalism.
Capitalism.
I mean, it is.
Shout out to Brad.
I mean,
Shout out to
Look,
Brad.
You have people.
but it really is.
It really is
though.
because, like,
It's
say someone can afford 10 Rolls Royces. Like, if you come to them and say, "Hey, can you just do it with 9?" They'd be like, "What kind of socialist are you?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's really who when you look at
And that's not even socialism, though. Like
Yeah.
it's not even like that's not even what it is. There's just such a bastardization of what the idea is.
everything has to have a profit model.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have except the police and the military, no one ever asks what's the profit model for, but if it's anything else that just benefits regular people, it's like, well, this is like even the post office. It's people are like, well, the post office loses money. It's like the post office wasn't set up to make money.
Yeah,
Right.
That's the difference.
It's set up to provide a service for people and to make their get them their medicine on time. We can't be thinking about a profit model.
Which is the way healthcare should be.
Yeah.
It's we pay into it, All right. So we pay a little bit less on policing and destroying the world, and we pay a little bit to the people at home that are sick.
Absolutely.
Other countries do it.
All the time.
Like,
Or a little less tax even.
yeah, I'm just saying.
Just a little
I mean,
less.
there's ways we can cut back.
I'm just saying.
Cut back to make it work.
Well, but you see where they don't cut back, and see that's where the issue is.
Capitalism.
Military.
Yeah.
You see how like
military,
they always
policing.
have, how in New York they're always going to find money for to pay overtime for the police, but
They found money to bail out these banks too.
but they're gonna
Yeah.
good. But you say, hey, can we keep this clinic open for sick
Absolutely
children?
not.
They'd be like, I
I
don't
don't know
know.
if we got the funds for that.
Where are we going to get that money? What's the
Yeah.
profit model for helping sick children?
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
I got to eat breakfast today. I'm gonna help you.
That's it.
At the end of the day, Lone, it always comes back around to
It always comes back around to
To the C word.
capitalism. Yeah, the C word.
to the crazy C word. Because the thing in capitalism, last thing I'll say is capital is one job.
Uh-huh.
No matter what job you work for under capitalism, it's to make the most money
Mhm.
with the least amount of labor, no matter what. And so
Apply it anywhere.
no matter what job you work for, can be your homie. It could be everything. The goal is always to make the most money with the least amount of labor, and that's the driving factor. So no matter what, that's always on the chopping block.
But this is the thing. I will say,
Bernie Madoff was the king of that.
Where we talk about
shout out to Lone Stocks.
Capitalism. I heard something. I don't attribute it to me, but I don't remember where I heard it from. Capitalism is great for things that you want.
Yeah.
But capitalism is terrible for things that you need. So I can go out, like if my TV breaks tomorrow, I'm not going to take it to a TV repairman because I can get another 55-inch TV with smart apps and all this stuff for $300. And as opposed to like maybe remember everyone a few years ago would be like, man, I'm going to go to Best Buy on the night before or day after Thanksgiving, get myself a flat. It was an opportunity.
Yeah, some people buy a new TV every year.
Exactly. And so, but when you talk about
weird
insulin and the fact that like there are people who are against capping the price of insulin, something that was sold a patent for no money, basically.
Facts.
And they've just been raising the price because they can.
Yeah.
Like that's capitalism that's really going, because
that's what
people need. And then there are people who literally fought against $35 capped insulin.
Yeah, you just trash if that's your stand at this point. You just
because it's like if you've taken the money from people who want to charge but once again, that's capitalism, isn't it? When somebody's like, no, see, if we can charge $350 for insulin, then that means we can put money into your political campaign.
Wasn't that Skrelly? Who's the dude that
AIDS? Was it AIDS medicine?
Yeah.
It was
it was insulin.
I think it was insulin.
No, it was
it was AIDS medicine?
It was HIV medicine.
I thought it was HIV.
Oh, okay, my bad.
He's got AIDS.
Oh, okay. I could have swore it was insulin.
I thought so too.
No, there's everybody, Pfizer, everybody wanted to charge them as much from insulin as possible, which is like I said, was a real dirtbag thing to do because that's again they didn't pay anything.
Look alone,
I didn't pay anything for the patent.
It was crazy. Did you remember when Elon Musk thought that it was good to charge the verified stuff, and they made the fake Eli Lilly account that was like, we've dropped all the prices. There's no cap, or there's like no cap on insulin, and
he's like insulin is like $15 or something
like that, and
it drove down the price of the Eli Lilly stock.
They lost like $8 billion in stock or something just from a fake $8 account or something. Yeah,
wow,
that's crazy.
Well,
yeah, but anyways,
America.
Mm-hmm. That's what your $8 gets you.